through your hair. Before finger detangling, mist your hair before starting the section. Begin by keeping your hair stretched and taking smaller sections from that larger section until you've identified or come upon any knots or tangles in your hair.
I remember one summer I binge watched I Am Sada on YouTube while getting ready for work every day, and my hair has never been healthier. I'm so scared. Y'all be talking so much shit. I'm so scared.
I'm literally I have finally discovered the way to moisturize my hair, and let me tell you what it is. So first off, I have been watching this creator called CYNPLE. She is a scientist, like a hair scientist. She knows what she's talking about. And one of the things that she recommends this thing called scientific brushing. So you take a brush or a comb and you like brush through your hair like every day, once a day. And I started doing that last week, and the difference it has made in my hair, this 4 bristle brush, insane. So before I was combing my hair every day, I'm not gonna hold you, that wasn't really doing it for me because I would still run my hands through my hair and it would catch. But after using this brush, come feel my hair, like it's soft, it's so soft, and I can feel that it's moisturized. Okay, so the reason why she recommends this is because it stimulates your scalp to release the sebum and allow it to travel down your hair shaft. I'm so excited. So I need a trim. So I'm gonna get a trim this week, and I'm gonna keeping up with the brushing, and we're gonna see this hair growth journey. Okay, because right now I'm trying.
Once you've identified a knot, you're going to slowly pull away smaller sections from that knot until the knot is gone. Continue to do this until all your knots and tangles are removed from that section.
This is why Team Natural drives me crazy. The idea of finger detangling is one of the most idiotic things that I think people could do, because the average human being has anywhere between 100,000 to 400,000 strands of hair on their head. But as you can see, you are using 4 fingers on each hand. That's 8 all together to detangle over 400,000 strands of hair, over 100,000 strands of hair. That literally makes no sense. So then the same group of women also have a really, really hard time with knots. You have a really hard time with tangling. You shed hair a whole lot. Globs of hair comes out when you comb your hair. Anybody will tell you that follows my method, they never lose globs and globs and globs of hair. Never. It's never a thing. And when they first started, they started doing things like finger detangling. But when they learned the right and proper techniques, they stopped doing that. Scientific brushing is perfected within the 7-day challenge and even more within the growth cycle blueprint. But to finger detangle is completely idiotic. I want you to look at this. Why do y'all think that you're actually detangling the hair? You have thousands upon thousands of strands of hair that you never separated, and that is not a normal amount of hair to lose. Finger detangling is one of the worst things that you can do to your hair, and I want you to realize that combs and brushes go back centuries. Since the beginning of time, our ancestors have been using combs and brushes, but for whatever reason, Team Natural thinks that they can reinvent the wheel, and all of a sudden combs and brushes are a piece of history that we need to throw away, even though we have that portion of history that we can prove. And what I want you to pay attention to, this is a hair shaft disorder, and so many Team Naturals, you guys think that you're doing the right thing by using 8 fingers to detangle 100,000 to 400,000 strands of hair. Your hair looks like this, and then it comes out in globs and globs globs and globs in the brushes, and then you go to a cosmetologist to get your hair done, and then your hair is completely and totally see-through. It is because of this. I don't care what any of you say. Finger detangling is one of the stupidest things that has been birthed out of the Team Natural community, and I can't wait for it to just crinkle up and die right along with y'all edges and y'all ends, because this is stupid. This is the result of a human being trying to detangle anywhere between 100,000 and 400,000 strands of hair with 8 fingers. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's what y'all doing. This is stupid. It is stupid.
Detangling is a ritual, and it should be a method behind it. Your approach to detangling should be the same every single time. And from the looks of this video, she doesn't have a process. She doesn't have a way in which she works through her hair normally. And this is what I would consider somebody with good genes. Okay, I consider.
Okay,
my hair has been in this finger twist for, if you can't run your fingers through your hair right now, you need this, because all that pulling and fighting through your curls, that's how you end up breaking off the length that you worked so hard to grow. I use this flaxseed super slip pre-poo and detangle.
So I want y'all to notice how every single time somebody who identifies as Team Natural, anytime they get ready to do their hair, it's always based around a product. Without a certain product, they can't get a certain result. That is not Team Natural. That is Team Product. If you can't do a certain thing without a product, then that's a problem. There are other women who do other things like flexi rod sets, perm rod sets, roller sets. They use a blow dryer, so many other things, and they can comb through and run their fingers through their hair without any product. This is a problem, and I don't understand why y'all can't see it.
To soften and moisturize and give my hair enough slip to work through those knots without ripping through my ends. You're already doing all that hard work to grow your hair. Stop losing it on detangling day. Tap the cart and get you some slip.
This video is going to explain how detangling is optional for people with coily hair.
What?
Most people do not understand that coils were designed to wrap and twist and tangle amongst themselves. They're really good at doing it.
I'm not listening to this. For whatever reason, whenever it comes to black hair, we want to take away logic out of the conversation. This is such a stupid conversation. Hair is a fiber, and any other fiber around your house, like for example, if you have some ribbons somewhere and it's a whole bunch of individual ribbons, you're not gonna, and they tangle up, you're not gonna say ribbons were meant to tangle. You're not gonna say that. You're gonna make sure that you keep them separated, and you're going to keep them separated and be running your fingers through, or whatever it is that you have to do on a regular basis to make sure that they don't tangle. Black people, for whatever reason, you use the color of your skin as a reason to just completely deny and throw off that part of your brain that gives you logic. This is so stupid. No, just because your hair is curly does not mean, oh, it's not supposed to be combed because it's curly. It's stupid. And that is why black women struggle with length retention more than anybody else. That's why black women deal with matting and tangling more than anybody else. No, everybody's hair can get matted. Everybody's hair tangles. But it is only black women who believe, oh, my hair is supposed to be tangled like this because it curls and it locks. No. Just like any other curly fiber on this earth, it has to be managed with a certain pattern and routine. I'm so sick of y'all. I'm truly sick of y'all.
Finger detangle their hair. So let's get into it. I'm not even gonna do too much talking because you already know all the benefits of finger detangling. So let's get into it. You gotta start with damp hair. So make sure you spray your hair a lot. I like to do this with deep conditioner in my hair. So I'm applying the deep conditioner from ends to root. Your ends are the oldest part of your hair, so you really want to coat it. Then I split my hair in half and I start working out the tangles. I'm feeling where they're at. This piece of my hair was already pretty detangled, so I didn't have to go too crazy. I like to use one hand as a comb towards the end and the other to really feel the shaft.
But just make it make sense. My brain just won't allow me to listen to y'all talk and say this stupid stuff. Like, why? Just pick up a fucking comb. Just get a comb, bro. I truly, for the life of me, cannot understand why Black women choose to make things so difficult for themselves when you can just look at the history of combs and brushes. They have a long history in beauty and care, and it's absolutely ridiculous that in 2026, why do Black people have to be the group of women who want to redo the whole set of history? Y'all want to redo all of history and try to throw out history. And the thing is, I wouldn't have a problem with it if the things that y'all did actually made sense. If the things that y'all did actually worked, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I would be like, go ahead, throw it out. We don't need that shit. But none of the things that y'all do make sense. So let me ask you a question. If combs and brushes are not necessary, why have they been being used since the beginning of time? Since BCE. This is the prehistoric era. They had combs and they have pictures of them. They have documentation. They found combs in tombs. They found combs and brushes buried in caves. Combs and brushes have been around since the beginning of time. Do you hear me? People have been combing and brushing their hair forever. Why on God's green earth do we have to constantly believe that out of every single person walking the face of the earth, Black people have to be the one group that we don't use combs, we don't use brushes, we don't use water? Like, shut up. It pisses me off because we going all the way back, the prehistoric era. Do you see that? The earliest known combs were made from bone, and these were found in sites in Turkey and France. So in Turkey and France, all the way back to BCE, they found combs and brushes in France and in Turkey. So why the hell are we acting like combs and brushes are not necessary? In ancient Egypt, in ancient Kemet, combs of ivory and bone and wood were used for all different hair types. What are we talking about? They were making, so far we have combs made of iron and made of bone and wood. What are we talking about? And ivory. Next up, in ancient Greece, combs were made from bone, ivory, wood, and bronze. We're going to the Roman Empire. Combs were made of many materials, including bone, ivory, horn, and metal. We can keep going. The Middle Ages, combs were made from bone, wood, and horn. Let's keep going. Renaissance in the 18th century, most of the combs were made of ivory and certain types of wood and metal. And then when we go into the Industrial Revolution, combs were mass produced. And this is where things end up. And of course, I skipped it, but when we keep going, let's say we go into the early beginnings, right? Brushes. Because at first we were just going on the history of combs, right? That's what we just did, the history of combs. And then even when you get into the 1900s, into the present modern era, now we're making combs out of plastic, carbon fiber, and new polymers that we've created, because we started with making combs with bone and wood and things of that nature, but we evolve and we do things that are more cost effective. So let's go into the history of brushes. When we go all into before 3000 BCE, the early beginnings of brushes, they were made from natural materials like twigs, grass, and animal hairs tied together. And then in ancient Egypt, brushes were made from plant fibers and animal hair used for hair, body, and even for applying oils. In ancient Greece, there were horsehair brushes made from horsehair, and that was really, really common for grooming in ancient Greece. When we talk about the Roman Empire, they used hair for hair grooming and body care. Brushes were made from materials like bristles and different types of stiff fibers, right? So then when we get to the Middle Ages, brushes were made from animal hair or plant fibers, and they were used for hair and beard care. And then when we get into the Renaissance, into the 18th century, brushes, they were improved. The bristles were made of boar and horse hair. So this was like more so of the elegant design. So then when you get further along into the 1800s to the 1900s, we're getting into the Industrial Revolution where brushes were widely available and boar bristle hair brushes were the thing. It became the standard. Boar bristle brushes were the standard. And then between the 1900s and the present day, within the modern era, modern brushes use synthetic bristle fibers or nylon pins designed for all hair types and styling needs. But a lot of cosmetologists, especially old school cosmetologists, still love the boar bristle brushes. I have boar bristle brushes. So when we're constantly going over finger detangling and it's best for you, it's bullshit. And yes, I'm cussing because it's annoying. All of the hair shaft disorders that you guys have now in 2026 were not around. They just weren't. They were not around. The hair shaft disorders that you guys have now are here solely because you will not stop trying to recreate the wheel when it doesn't need to be recreated. So sometimes it'll probably seem like I'm being mean, but I'm not being mean. It's just annoying that we have to constantly have these conversations and these arguments. Hopefully while I'm editing, I'll be able to put the comment up on the screen, but there's somebody like, no, detangling, finger detangling, that's the hit, finger detangling, that is what we're supposed to do. Did they have combs? They didn't have combs and brushes back in ancient civilizations. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So I have a question for you. If they understood that the hair needed to be combed and brushed and they had different methods to make combs and brushes, you don't think that they had different methods to dry their hair? Our ancestors were intelligent enough to figure out how to wash their clothes, wash their ass, make their own version of laundry detergent, their own version of shampoo, conditioner, all of the things, but they couldn't figure out different methods to dry their hair is BS. Yes, they did. When you look through African civilizations and the way that the ones with the longest hair were wearing their hair, all of them were wearing their hair stretched. And when they did wear their hair stretched, they allowed their hair to lock, but it was uniformed. It wasn't just sitting on the top of their head. Hey, I'm finger detangling. I'm finger detangling with a couple of my fingers. I'm going to separate thousands upon thousands of strands with just a couple of fingers. It's stupid. It doesn't matter how much any of you try to say it. It doesn't matter how standard and everything and how smart everybody tries to make themselves sound. Detangling over 100,000 strands of hair with 4 fingers, no matter how well you file down your nails, is stupid. And since the beginning of time, our forefathers and our ancestors of every race, of every creed, of every ethnic group have had combs and brushes. So why in 2026 have you all decided that even though you don't know how to rebuild the pyramids, you think that you figured out how to master the human hair shaft of curly hair? I know, even though they've been making combs and brushes since the beginning of time, I'm going to use my fingers. That'll do it. And then you guys wonder why you're leading in scalp and follicle infections. You wonder why Black women are leading in single strand knots. You're wondering these things, but the truth of the matter is you don't have to wonder. You don't. You don't have to wonder. If you look in the mirror, if you look at your patterns and your routines, it's very easy to see why Team Natural does not have a easy, breezy comb out session every time they pick up something. Rules know that there are just minor changes that you implement that completely changes your hair routines and patterns. But the thing is, you'll see a woman with hair this long and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. But what you don't see is these women, once they get older, once a woman like her hits her 40s and her 50s and her 60s, and then she starts to notice the way that her doing finger detangling is actually putting a damper on her hair shaft, you'll realize that. That's why so many of your favorite Team Naturalists are like, oh, it's because of my hormones. Oh, her hair is thinning because she just had a baby. No, it's not. Their hair is weathering and thinning because they don't comb their hair properly. To detangle is to separate tangles. It is humanly impossible for 8 fingers to detangle anywhere between 100,000 and 400,000 strands, regardless of what you guys try to say. And instead of you just picking up a comb or a brush, you sit and you making flaxseed gel and you going and buying all of these different products when you can go to Sally's and get a comb or a brush for less than $5. You can go get a comb or a brush for less than $10 and brush your hair the right way. But no, y'all think y'all know everything and y'all think y'all have everything figured out. So keep it going. And slowly but surely, you will see the majority of Team Natural scalp look just like the scalps of the leaders of the Team Natural community who are now cutting their hair off. It's absolutely ridiculous because at the end of the day, I think it's just making women feel as if they have some type of, secret code that the rest of the world doesn't have. And that's not true. The rest of the world has a secret code that you constantly reject and refuse to upset and refuse to accept, which is you picking up a comb or a brush and using it on your hair. Let's not talk about our African ancestors as if you guys are doing something to follow in their footsteps, because what you're doing is actually disrespecting all of the work that they've already put in, because our ancestors had combs and brushes. This is ridiculous. Like, seriously, like even as somebody that is a self-proclaimed cosmetologist, hairstylist, doing this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, the hair, there's a difference between separating and detangling. You're just separating some of the strands, but the hair is still in knots. Do you see how at the bottom of this strand right here, I hope you can see where my mouse is, there's still knots and tangles. You're not detangling anything. There is still hair that is still wrapped up and wrapped around the hair. And I don't give a damn how much grease, how much gel you put on your fingers is not going to automatically separate and move down the shed hair down the coily strand the way that a comb or a brush would. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, and at the end of the day, I don't care how mad Team Natural stylists get at me. In my opinion, Team Natural stylists do this ignorant finger detangling stuff because they want to be able to spend more time in your head charging you more money. So they make you believe that they're doing some type of masterful technique where in reality, they're breaking your hair. Yanking that apart with your fingers, that's why the majority of y'all have single strand knots. That is where trichinosis comes from. Hopefully we get to a place where we're able to have these conversations. Hopefully we get to a place where everybody is able to think for themselves and think on their own. But at the end of the day, whenever you're doing a bunch of finger detangling and things of that nature, this is all you're doing. You're literally like breaking and snapping off pieces of the cuticle. That's why all Team Natural people all have a line of demarcation whenever they get ready to straighten their hair, because this is the way that you all choose to detangle your hair instead of picking up a comb or a brush. Picking up one of the many brushes and combs that our ancestors have developed throughout the centuries will cut this time down in half. And it's really, really crazy that we're still like sticking to this, regardless of what anybody has to say. The thing is, this whole Team Natural finger detangling thing, this is a hill that Team Natural people are willing to die on, because it's like, okay, if I say anything different, then I have to admit that I've been giving people bullshit, that I've been pushing bullshit. And the reality is, y'all should be okay with that. Y'all should be okay with them feeling good enough to be able to be held accountable. They should be able to be held accountable and to sit and look at you in the face and say, okay, we were wrong for that. We were wrong for that. So at the end of the day, a lot of us get really, really confused about what hair shaft disorders look like. You think that the only thing that could go wrong in your hair shaft is split ends, but the reality of it is there are so many different hair shaft disorders that a whole lot of Black women have, and you don't even know that it's something that you're suffering from. It's something that you don't know. You know why? Most of the people who told you to do the things that you do now, they don't know anything about the science of the human body beyond what hair product they believe will serve you the most, or what hair product they can get the most commission out of. And that's just the truth of the matter. I'm not being a hater. We speaking real. We telling the truth. It is what it is, because at the end of the day, these are the type of hair shaft disorders that you're developing. These are the type of hair shaft disorders that you have, and that you are that will begin to present themselves in your head if you're constantly following Team Natural, and Team Natural doesn't know what they're talking about. If you don't know what the majority of these types of hair shaft disorders are, if you don't know what they are, how the hell could you ever know what the cause of them are? How could you ever know what the cause of these hair shaft disorders are if you don't even know that they exist? And it doesn't matter what oil, what grease, what butter you put on your hair, it will not fix any of these hair shaft disorders. It simply will not. And it's upsetting. It's really, really upsetting at times, because it's hard for us to help our clients when our clients are constantly not paying attention. When our clients think that for some reason we're just like, oh, so upset or so mad at them in a way that we just can't pay attention, or that we're just not able. And it's not true. We have to get to a place where we're able to have these types of conversations. We need to get to the place where we can sit down as women and say, okay, yeah, she makes really good content, but she's not a hair scientist. She doesn't specialize in the hair shaft. He does not specialize in the human scalp, because I think his scalp would look a lot different if his specialty was the scalp. These are the things that I need you to think about, but nobody's thinking about those things. It sounds like you're doing something different than the rest of the world is doing, because you're choosing not to use a comb and a brush. But when you don't use combs and brushes, these are the types of hair shaft disorders that you end up causing within your hair shaft. Number 8. Number 8 is the hair shaft disorder that most of you are having and causing. You don't understand that when you do things like this, right? When you do things like this, what happens is you're creating a bunch of little knots. And with you having those gloves on, you're pulling the knot down. It's just like if you have a string of dental floss and there's a knot in it, but the knot isn't that tight, it's still a little open, and then you pull down on that string, what's going to happen? Is that not going to tighten, or is it going to loosen up? It's going to tighten. So why do you think anything different is happening here? Hair is a fiber. And these are the things that irritate me. These are the things that makes it so I don't truly want to help all the time, because it feels like you're talking to yourself. So these are the things that I really want you to sit and think about. These are the things that I really want you to sit with, because everybody who doesn't agree with your single strand knots and your finger detangling, this isn't everybody hating on you all the time. This, my love, is a hair shaft disorder. So look at that, right? You see that? Look at that. And now let's come back over here and let's look at these hair shaft disorders. Which one does that look like? Which one does that look like to you? You are finger detangling. You're not doing anything masterful to the hair. You're not doing anything masterful to the scalp. You have not discovered some new secret layer that nobody knows about. You haven't done that. All you're doing is damaging your hair. Finger detangling makes no sense. And I don't care how self-righteous or how power to the people it makes you feel. It is stupid to think that you can detangle anywhere between 100,000 strands of hair, 100,000 strands to 400,000 strands with 4 fingers. That makes no sense. Again, if you have a small like tie, not even a knot, but a small tie within a fiber and then you pull it, it's going to tighten the knot. What do you think she's doing right now? What do you think she's doing right now? Finger detangling, pulling her fingers through her hair. Do you think she's loosening the knot or do you think she's tightening it up? Yeah. You're not helping. You all are pulling your hair out and you think that you've done something so interesting. It gets addicting because it's like pulling a scab. You know how some people, myself included, how sometimes you just have this impulse to like peel a scab. That's what y'all are doing. It's an impulse to peel a scab. You're not helping anything. You're scarring the hair shaft. And then that's just it. How to detangle natural hair to prevent breakage. Like the thing is, once again, your hair on a blown out state and your hair in a flat iron state look very different. Her hair shaft has knots all across it. Just because your hair is long does not mean that it's healthy. When your hair shaft has knots in it like that all over before you do anything, you have a hair shaft disorder. So I need y'all to understand y'all are taking counsel from women who have hair shaft disorders. Y'all are not team natural. Y'all are team product. Y'all can't do y'all hair without saturating your hair with products. Whereas a professional cosmetologist is going to put a little bit of leave-in in. She's going to pick up her tool, blow dry your hair. She'll be done faster than you can separate it with your fingers. But, nobody's going to listen. Nobody's been listening for a long time. So I'm not really going to have that conversation, girl. We ain't even about to look at her. But you guys have fun. You know what I mean? Like, go right ahead, do whatever it is that you feel that you need to do. And I'm going to keep it true. I hope that everybody has fun, as it pertains to you putting all of that weird shit in your hair every day. I hope that it makes you feel away. But at this point, I really want all of the finger detanglers to really, really understand that you are not doing anything interesting. If anything, you are trying to recreate a piece of history that did not need to be recreated. You're trying to restructure a portion of history that does not need restructuring. And for all of the lies that the Team Natural community constantly wants to push out without doing any proper research, just like we already discovered and talked about the fact that bonnets are not a part of Black culture, but they also go back to European culture. They were wearing bonnets in the 1700s. Yes, they were. Yeah. That's who you're like. But it's not a part of Black culture the same way that combs and brushes are something that we've been using since the prehistoric era. And now in 2026, Black women have decided that even though we've been doing it since 7000 BCE, even though that's what how shit been going down, baby. Y'all have decided that we don't need combs and brushes no more. So let's do this. The group of women who've decided that they don't want to use combs and brushes, you guys go stay on the single strand knot side. And then everybody else will come over here. If you want to learn more about different hair shaft disorders and how to avoid them, make sure you check the course in the description box below. It is one of my free courses here on YouTube, all about hair shaft disorders and scalp disorders. So if you want to learn more about them so you can avoid them, then click the link in the description box below and it will teach you everything you need to know. Bye-bye.